Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylina and I'm the Hex Witch, and today I have another book review for you. So let's get started. So my book review today is going to be The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This is what it looks like. It's actually got a really pretty cover. And I was really interested in reading this book because it was kind of all about kind of Russian folklore, and I myself am Russian. I was adopted there when I was 9 months old, so I definitely have kind of a, I don't know what you want to call it, passion for Russian culture and Russian history, and so I thought this book would be an interesting tale. And it was, in the fact that I really liked the Russian folklore that was tied in with this book, and I have some other notes, so I'm gonna get right into those. So overall, the story has a very interesting concept with combining the witchcraft and the Christian belief system. So you definitely see the duality between the two, and that's very common within any kind of witch book. You definitely see the Christian faith, or what's the other one that I'm trying to think of? Any of the older religions where, they were practicing pagan beliefs pretty much, and then the New Age era came in and they were forced to convert. And so you very much have that same kind of concept here. But the power of fear really came into play, which I found interesting, because you saw these people literally practice the same beliefs for generations and generations, and everything thrived really well. And then, of course, the priest comes in, and all of a sudden he wants to change everyone into being, Christian, and all of a sudden people just dropped their beliefs and what they were doing forever to convert, just because this guy provoked fear and told them that they were pretty much going to hell if they didn't convert. But it was also interesting because you very much get to see a lot of the folklore and the different spirits that are in Russian folklore, and they of course stop giving offerings to these spirits, and so these spirits in a sense start kind of almost dying off, because what was once very prosperous, and they worked together and they were helpful to the people because they were given energy and life and belief, then all of a sudden they started to fade away and they started to die. So it was just interesting that we've seen that throughout history, is that people are either taught to fear their own religion, or they're taught out of fear of punishment to drop their religion. And it's when really other people have no business in deciding what another person's religion or belief system should be. So I just found that interesting, and I wanted to look up because I was just curious as far as the percentage of people in Russia today who still practices kind of more folklore and who practice Christians. I think it's a mix, but I feel like there's more people leaning towards the Christian religion at this time, but I'll have to double check that. I feel like I've looked that up at some point. But it's just interesting how easily people can be brainwashed. That's why I feel like you really need to be strong in your belief system and be educated in your belief system, and that way you're not easily influenced, because it can happen quite easily. Like I had mentioned, I really loved seeing the Russian spirits and folklore within this book. There are a lot of the spirits that are mentioned, and if you've ever read Baba Yaga's Book of Magic, which I have, which I really enjoyed because that really nicely goes through Russian kind of folklore and culture and the spirits within that culture, you're gonna see a lot of them in this book, which I really liked reading about, because I was I know what that is. I know what a Dama Donovan is, and like water spirit, and all these names that I was very much familiar with. So that was really cool. That was probably my favorite part about this book, is just seeing the culture intertwined very, very nicely within the book. So there's two characters that are very much the same, but on opposite sides of the spectrum. So you have Vazia, I think that's how you say her name, don't quote me on that. And then you have Anna. And so Vazia is kind of our main character. She's the heroine of the book. And then you have Anna, who is her stepmother. And there's that duality between the two of them because both of them can see spirit. So they both can see the spirits that are around the house, the yard, in the bathhouse, wherever they're at, they can see the spirits. But Vazia obviously very much embraces these spirits. She helps them, she gives them offerings, she can even talk to them and they talk to her back. Anna, on the other hand, has always been terrified of the spirits her entire life. She's very firmly believes that she's seeing demons. And of course, when the priest comes to town, that even escalates that even more because the priest kind of, tells her that she needs to pray more and she needs to devote herself to God pretty much in order to save herself from these demons that she's seeing. And so she very much felt safe in a convent, and she was very determined to go to one to stay safe. But those plans changed because, of course, women back in that time had no say as to where they were going to go, what kind of life they were supposed to live. They were pretty much treated like cattle. And so her best made plans did not work out because she was then betrothed to Vazia's dad. And of course, she was much younger than him at the time. And so she was kind of devastated and scared to have to go get married to this older man and have to face the world with the so-called demons that she was seeing all the time. So you kind of see this hatred build up in Anna a little bit because she just doesn't know how to cope with what she's seeing. And I feel like a lot of mediums, when they first realize that they're mediums, probably have a similar feeling. You're seeing these things that a lot of people can't see and can't understand, and you kind of feel like you're on an island all alone. Now, I'm not a medium. I have clairaudience, and some of the other clairs, but I don't actually see them most of the time, which I'm perfectly okay with. I mean, part of me kind of wants to see them, and then the other part of me feels like that's gonna flip my entire world upside down if that ever does happen. But I can imagine how Anna feels. But it kind of turns her into this very bitter character. And really, I mean, she tries to just kind of keep to herself, but of course, Vazia is very much a trigger for her because Vazia invites the spirits in and she wants them away. So it's an interesting dynamic. So another theme that I found in here is that a very sad but true statement is that people tend to make judgments on things before they have an experience with it themselves and to be able to fully make their own determination on something. So like the priest comes in and he's automatically judging this culture, judging these spirits. Doesn't really have an experience with them except for one time, and Vazia actually saves him from this spirit. And so he just completely disregards anything that they've been, believing in all these generations. And it's like, don't make judgment before you actually experience it yourself, And I feel like that's very much a theme in today's world as well. We just make assumptions of people, things, events, places before we have an experience ourselves. And when our opinion at that point, I mean, yes, you can always have your own opinion, but unless you actually truly educate yourself on something, there's really no reason for you to be totally against it unless, you have your own experience with it, if that makes sense. So I found that kind of a reoccurring theme throughout the book. The only thing that I really didn't like about this book is it had a very disappointing ending for me, at least. And I know there's like 2 more books after it, but it felt like this one wrapped up pretty well as far as this first book goes. Like there wasn't like a cliffhanger or anything that left you thinking, oh my gosh, I need to know what else happens, because, you know, it leaves me at this really bad point of my characters in peril kind of thing, which is what I like to do at end of books because I'm awful. And like throughout the whole book, there's this amulet that Vazia is supposed to be given, but her grandma kind of holds out on it because it belongs to like the snow demon. And he's kind of a demon, kind of a god, kind of a mix of both. But she's supposed to inherit this at a young age because supposedly she's gonna have this magical witch power that ends up coming into play later. Now, she doesn't get the necklace until much later in the book, and she doesn't even know how to use it. Like she has no real ability to wield her magic. Not really, because of course she's just learning how to do it. But the snow demon also has this brother who is a bear, or he can transform from a bear to a human. He's kind of the evil spirit that wants to, you know, invade, kind of take over, destroy the humans, so to speak, or at least kill them and take their energy, because he's all into the fear and all that kind of stuff. So at the end, you kind of expect this giant battle, so to speak, you know, between like Vazia, the snow demon, you know, the bear and his little minions, but you really don't get that like at all. Like there's this twist of events or something happens and then it just ends. Like it just ends, and she doesn't really use her magic. The bear is defeated just like super easily and super quickly. I mean, not easily with what ended up having to happen, but there's no battle, like none. And the snow demon like pretty much just abandons them to take care of another issue that Vazia asks him to take care of, but he's not even like a part of the major battle that didn't even happen. So it's like you're going and going and going and you expect that like climax that's usually in books, but it kind of plateaued before we got there. So that was the only kind of disappointing thing. And I don't know, I find this a lot kind of in more adult type books. Like the action sequences, to me at least, maybe I'm just picking the wrong books, I don't know, but the action sequences are not as like strong as they are in like YA books. Because for instance, I read The Children of Blood and Bone. Great action sequences in that one, and it gets into kind of, I mean, some bloody stuff, and like you actually believe that your characters are truly in peril at the right moments, which in a book you want. You know, you don't, it just, when nothing truly happens to your characters that are just, that makes you kind of fear for them, it makes it kind of boring. And so that's where I was kind of getting at. Like I love the lore and the folklore, but overall the story just didn't really progress in like a super like exciting way. And I guess maybe that was the point of it, because there's 2 more books, so maybe those books are a lot more action filled, but this one just wasn't. At least not to the extent that I enjoy. I really was expecting a little bit more in that final battle moment, but that did not happen. Like I said, she was given that necklace that was supposed to be like a really important moment, and she doesn't even really use it at all. And you would think that there would have been a time of kind of like training for it almost, where the snow demon might have been training her how to use it, but no, just nothing. So maybe it shows up more in the other 2 books. I don't know. And maybe this one was more just to kind of set things up. But if this snow demon, this other snow demon's brother was such a big threat and such a big danger, like they said, he shouldn't have been defeated as kind of easily as he was. Like it just was lacking for me. Also, like the back of the book, when you read the back of the book, it acts like her stepmother, is going to be like this big time enemy, that she's kind of like the main antagonist of the story, almost kind of like a Cinderella story in a way, but Russian. And which I know Russians have their own version of Cinderella, but I mean, she was an inconvenience at best, and yes, she was kind of, I mean, she wasn't like a nice person. She was actually pretty shy most of the time. She just kind of wanted to be on her own. So she didn't really participate in things unless she had to, and she really hated when Vazia was, you know, invoking the spirits, but that's only because she was afraid and she feared what she didn't understand. So it's not like a true villain in my opinion. She was more just misunderstood because she felt like she was going crazy, and having no one understand that, it probably did make her a little bit crazy. So I didn't really find her to be an enemy in this story, and honestly, nobody like stood out as an enemy except for, you know, the Snow Demon's brother, but even he wasn't a major player as much as I thought he was going to be. So it was kind of hard to pick like a true antagonist because I just felt like we didn't really have one to the extent that I would have thought we would have had one. Like I've said a million times, the bear evil spirit to the brother was just defeated in, I mean, emotionally in a hard way, but physically there is really nothing that really happened. So, and all of a sudden he was just gone. So those were my critiques on the book. Like I said, I love the Russian folklore of it. I mean, that's kind of what kept me reading. And I mean, you go along and you kind of feel like we're building up to a big moment, but it just fell short for me personally. I still think I may read the other ones at some point. I'm not necessarily in a rush to do so at this time. I'm kind of in a nonfiction reading phase right now anyway, and that's going to be my next videos. We're going to start talking about Chinese medicine. So that is my book review of The Bear and the Nightingale. I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 5, just because the folklore was really fun to read about, especially if you are at all familiar with Russian folklore or you feel kind of tied to Russian culture like I do. This book is great for that. You get to see a lot of the perspectives of the spirits themselves, which is pretty cool. But the overall plot line, yeah, it was pretty average for me. But other than that, that is all I have for you today. If you like my videos, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, because I try to send out videos every week, but as of right now, it's kind of every other week, just with life stuff right now. In other exciting news though, I do plan, and we've made the plans, to go to Salem, Massachusetts in October, which I am so excited about because I absolutely adore Halloween, like everything Halloween. And of course, Salem is the witchiest town probably in the United States, I would dare to say. So I am really looking forward to it. Salem, I hope you go all out like I'm totally expecting you to do. And I'm bringing my sister along with me, who also loves the witchy vibes, Halloween, you name it, all that kind of stuff. So we will be going through the 5th through the 8th, I believe, and I am so excited. I really need this after all this stuff that's been happening in my life right now. So yeah, and as you can see, we've got a different setting today because I moved back in with my parents. So they graciously let me live here rent-free until the divorce and everything else gets settled. So that is the life update. As always, I hope you all stay happy and you stay healthy. I still feel like I need to change that because I realized another YouTuber, Dr. Mike, literally says that, and I'm pretty sure he claimed that long before I did. So I need to come up with a new ending. But anyway, stay happy, stay healthy. I will see you next time for another video. Bye.